Good afternoon, everybody. It's Lisa with Undermined Propaganda. We're going to talk about some Israel propaganda today and how they are pushing funding on that to try to gain back support because their support is cratering and the polls show it. It is Sunday, May 3rd, 2026. And first, I'd like to thank the subscribers, PT0311, David Cordero, Susan Chapman, Hank Revs, and please forgive me for mispronouncing your name, Eileen or Aileen Anaithnid, and let me know if you're watching this in the comments how to pronounce it. My apologies again, but thank you guys so much. Again, reminded, I am not speaking into the void, because I tell you what, many of my friends don't. When I talk about this stuff, they're still just lost in the matrix, so to speak. They want to talk about what they went shopping for, how they matched their Nikes to their new jacket, and I don't give a rat's ass. I just really don't. This is the stuff that I care about. Anyway, getting into it. Israel is continuing to lose support. For my entire life and generations before me, Israel had the support of nearly all Americans, including Democrats. There were some dissenters, but not many. Most people absolutely wholeheartedly supported giving them billions and billions of dollars each year to fund their military, to fund their health care, which we don't have here, to fund their free education, to fund their Greater Israel Project and the continued ethnic cleansing, land theft, starvation, and sexual assault of Palestinians. Though so many of us had no idea that that's where this funding went. For the majority of my adult life, I had a general idea that Israel was the good guy. Israel was the democracy in the Middle East. Funding them was the right thing. I got older, I started to read, I started to listen to people that knew far more than I could ever know, and I learned the truth of the matter of what we are truly funding and supporting and have been my entire adult life. People like Ilan Pape, people like Norm Finkelstein, people like Gabor Mate, many others. So I read, and now I understand. And now I just want to, on my tiny little platform, an old lady, Generation X, out here in Toledo, Ohio, that just wants to keep giving voice to the truth. So let's go ahead and see why Israel is panicking here. We'll look at a recent poll and what it tells us. April 7, 2026, shout out to Laura Silver. Negative views of Israel and Netanyahu continue to rise among Americans, especially young people. The boomers are still caught up in the Israel trap. Americans have increasingly negative views of Israel and its Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, according to a new Pew Research Center survey. If you look at this graph, pardon me, very and somewhat favorable views of Israel, 37%. Very and somewhat unfavorable, 60%. 60% of U.S. adults have an unfavorable view of Israel, up from 53% last year. 59% have little or no confidence in Netanyahu to do the right thing regarding world affairs, up from 52% last year. In both political parties, majorities of adults under the age of 50 now rate Israel and Netanyahu negatively. The survey was conducted March 23rd to 29th among 3,507 U.S. adults. So yes, they are panicking. They want to hold on to their unlimited funds, their unlimited support, their ability to punish and smear, deplatform, deport, slaughter, starve, and do whatever they want in the Middle East. They want to hold on to that power. And great powers don't like to lose control. American empire is the same exact way. So they are increasing their budgets for propaganda. But before we take a look at that article talking about that, let's look at something that literally was posted on X, I believe yesterday or today, that I saw. That just is another example of why it is obvious these people are depraved. They need to be stopped. People need to keep speaking out. The battle needs to keep being fought against this civilization and against our own empire that supports them and similar actions, by the way. We do the same thing they do. Look at what we did in Iran with the Manab schoolgirls and all the other civilians that we have slaughtered over there for no justifiable reason other than we are empire, we want control of their resources, and we want to enable Israel to continue their greater Israel project. But here's just an example of this society that we have supported for generations and why so many are turning against it. Let's go ahead and take a look at this horrifying stuff. Quds News Network posted this on X. I'll just read it to you here. The wife of ultra-nationalist Israeli minister Itamar Ben-Gvir offered him a birthday cake decorated with a noose design. Yes, I said noose, which symbolizes a proposed law concerning the execution of Palestinian detainees. The cake also carried the message, "Happy birthday to Minister Ben-Gvir. Sometimes dreams come true." So, if you're a normal human being that has empathy and compassion and values the dignity of human life, you might support the birth of a child. You might support a marriage. You might support policy that uplifts the vulnerable, that helps society as a whole live a better quality of life. I would love a living wage. I would celebrate Medicare for all. I would celebrate free higher education. I would celebrate those types of things. In Israel, they support executing Palestinians. And these Palestinian detainees that they call terrorists might be somebody that threw a rock. They might be somebody that literally just exists as a Palestinian because these are Jewish supremacists. They believe they have a right to the land and they don't see these people as human. When asked if these same laws applied to Israelis, they said no. So for them to be a democracy in the Middle East is a fucking joke. And if you look at these two parts of Israeli society and the loving gazes and the gentle, caring touches they have between each other, because they are so happy and elated at the thought of executing a Palestinian human being. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe there are reasons why support is turning. Maybe I question myself why I didn't understand much earlier, why all of us didn't understand much earlier that this society needed to be stopped, support needed to be pulled, and not just support pulled, but the society itself, the country needed to be embargoed and sanctioned. That's what needs to happen. And the people responsible for these crimes against humanity long ago should have been brought to justice. These unaccountable people that have hubris and just continue to commit crime after crime after crime against humanity with absolutely no accountability. But now tides are turning. Times are changing. The generations of support are over, but they are going to do everything in their power to get it back, or at least attempt to, because monsters don't release control without a fight, and it gets ugly when they do. But this is their latest here, where they are trying to hold on to control. Shout out to the Cradle. This came out yesterday, I believe. Israel quadruples propaganda budget to $730 million as it loses global war for hearts and minds. Israel has approved an unprecedented $730 million public diplomacy budget for 2026, a fourfold increase from the previous year in a desperate bid to reverse catastrophic decline in international support, according to a report from The Forward. Foreign Minister Gideon Saar described the expenditure as a strategic necessity on par with investing in jets, bombs, and missile interceptors, signaling that the state now views its deteriorating reputation as an existential threat. So, in addition to, they've always used, just as American empire, bombs and sanctions and missiles and jets to try to bring societies to their knees and allow us and Israel to dominate them. Propaganda has been the other weapon. And we are here in America extraordinarily good at it, which is why so much of our population is brainwashed. Israel is on par with us, and that is their thing. They're good at it. Let's go ahead and read on, and then I'll make a couple more comments about that. The massive allocation, which is nearly 50 times pre-2023 levels. See, 50 times the levels they were before this live stream genocide. Can't hide the truth anymore. People will fund AI-driven social media campaigns, paid influencer networks like the Esther Project and Luxury Lifestyles, delegations for foreign lawmakers and pastors. Despite the record spending, experts and internal critics warn that no amount of money can bridge Israel's growing credibility gap. A recent Pew Research Center poll reveals that 60% of Americans now view Israel unfavorably, with support cratering among young Republicans, Black Protestants, and the religiously unaffiliated. Analysts point to a Gaza generation that increasingly views Israel policy through the lens of genocide and settler colonialism, making traditional Hasbara ineffective. As one scholar noted, the strategy of spending hundreds of millions on tactical productions, such as sitcoms and documentaries, fails to address the negative realities on the ground that have turned Israel into a pariah state for a new generation. And all hope against hope, not just a new generation, but forever, that we turn the corner on this. And as that article talks about using social media influencers, there was a video that came out about 7 months ago that literally showed Bibi Netanyahu speaking to American influencers about how to use TikTok and how to use X to spread propaganda. And reports were out that they were paid, at least the big ones, were paid $7,000 per post. Things like, Israel is the most moral army. Israel is the only democracy in the Middle East. Pro-Palestinian voices are lying. There is no genocide. It's all fake news. And then they pay them $7,000. And then because the billionaire Zionists here in America have purchased our biggest media platforms and news networks, by the way, like CBS, TikTok was purchased by Larry and David Ellison, billionaire Zionists, owners of also Oracle, and their assignment is to elevate these pro-Israel voices and to suppress anybody speaking out about the genocide in Gaza or the war crimes that we're committing in Israel right now, the war crimes we're committing right now in Iran along with Israel, and the ongoing war crimes in Gaza, and the new genocide that Israel is now committing in Lebanon. So these billionaire Zionists, as Netanyahu lays out in that video from 7 months ago, and it's laid out in this article, they put more money into it, that $730 million, into making sure that there are funded propagandists all over social media to try to suppress, to try to drown out the actual truth by people speaking out about this stuff. But guess what? The tide has turned. The tide continues to turn. And people know the truth. Too many people know the truth. And it's coming to an end. And my heart and my soul go out to those who have spoken truth over all these generations, felt like they were screaming into a void and nobody was listening. And this genocide, which is still going on in Gaza, all the Palestinian journalists that lost their lives to keep telling this story, to keep telling the truth and hoping somebody would start to listen. And people have started to listen. So the people protesting Congress, Code Pink, Anthony Aguilar, that go in there and scream that we're committing a genocide in our name with our bombs and our money here in the United States. We are funding Israel to continue committing genocides. And now we are doing the same in Iran with Israel. Shout out to all those voices that continue to scream the truth. And shout out to all the people on X, all those on YouTube that keep telling the truth, that will not be quiet. We cannot be quiet about this. This is the issue of our time, and it connects to every other issue. Keep speaking the truth. Keep learning. I'm going to keep speaking the truth on my teeny tiny little minute channel, being Generation X, this old lady that finally learned some truth. I'm going to keep talking. I'm going to keep speaking truth. I'm going to give truth a voice. And that is all for today. But I did want to shout out and just go over that article about the increased budget. There's going to be even more propaganda all over our social media websites, even more propaganda all over our mainstream media, even more propaganda on certain right-wing news channels, or I shouldn't say news channels, right-wing YouTube channels, Ben Shapiro, Mark Levin, people like that are going to really go. These people, they know they're losing the battle. And when violent monsters start losing control, things get very dangerous, even more dangerous, I should say. But we got to keep speaking out. They're not going to silence us anymore. We know the truth. It's time for a reckoning. It is time for a reckoning. All right, guys. Thank you so much for listening. If you found anything of value, please like, subscribe, share, comment. And also, very importantly, I hope you find some peace in the rest of your day. Thanks a lot, guys. We'll talk to you later. Bye.